Hello students, I hope you are doing great. So today we'll do constitutions. Okay, we'll do the chapter constitutions only, as we have already discussed this one. In last class we have discussed about what are constitutions and the kinds of constitutions, and today in this class we will discuss about the merits and demerits of the different kinds of constitutions. Okay, so without wasting any time, so let's say it further. So number one, that is the merits. We'll discuss first the merits and demerits of written constitutions, and afterwards we'll discuss about unwritten constitutions and rigid and flexible. Okay, so let's start with the merits and demerits of the written constitutions. Okay, so written constitutions, you knew it, students. I have already explained that, right? So written constitutions, it means a constitution that was written in the form of a book, right? A series of documents that was combined in the form of a book, right? So it is consciously planned, and it was enacted constitutions, okay, which was formulated and it was adopted by the members of the Constituent Assembly or a committee. Okay, so let's start with the merits. Number one is it is clear and precise. Okay, so written constitution is clear and precise, students. Okay, as it is clear and precise because it is free from the doubts. Okay, as it is written in the form of a book, that's why there is no ambiguity in the written constitutions, as we can also say that it is very, very clear and definite. The provisions in the constitutions are very, very clear without any confusions. Okay, that is why it is very, very clear and it is very, very definite and precise. Okay, so that is number one, merits of your written constitutions. Number two, that is it is permanent and rigid. Okay, it is more permanent in character, students, and it has a very less scope for the amendments. So almost all the written constitutions are very, very permanent, and they are very rigid in nature, as we have discussed in the last class about the written constitutions. Okay, as it is very rigid in nature. Okay, as it cannot get easily amended. Okay, so that is your number two merits of your written constitutions. And next one is it protects the fundamental rights of the people, and it is necessary for the federations. That means it protects and safeguards the fundamental rights of the people, students. So it is written in the document. Okay, so it is more promising than an unwritten constitution. So that means the rights are more safe. Okay, and why it is necessary for the federation? Because the provisions regarding that the division of power should be written in nature. Okay, so that means in the division of power, we can see that there are the central government and the state government in such cases. That means the functions of the central government and the state government should be demarcated properly. So in this case, the written constitutions is very, very important. Okay, so these are the merits of the written constitutions. Now let's discuss the demerits of the written constitutions. So number one, it says that written constitutions cannot easily cope with the changes that take place. Okay, so that is number one, demerits of written constitutions. And it says that, students, if they have to make a certain changes, okay, in the constitutions, okay, so they have to go through the various procedures. It has to be passed from both the houses. Okay, then it has to be ratified from the state government with 3/4. That means it takes a time. Okay, so that means rigidity is there in a written constitutions, and changes cannot be brought easily. Okay, so that is why from time to time we know that the constitution needs to be revised, it needs to be modified. Okay, a certain changes have to be brought. So written constitutions, it being rigid, is not easily amendable. Okay, whenever necessity arises in certain circumstances. Okay, so that is number one, demerits of your written constitutions. And number two is written constitution gives more importance to written laws. Okay, as the government, students, as we know that the written constitutions, as it gives more importance to the written laws. Okay, and over here the importance of the public opinion decreases, students, and the government, they go through the written laws which are there in the constitutions. Okay, and the country which has a written constitutions, such as customs, conventions, traditions, and the values that are sometimes been ignored because those are not at all included in the constitutions. So they completely believe and follow the rule of law. Okay, so which are mentioned down in the written constitutions. So that is why the customs and the values are not important in the written constitutions, though it is there, but they are not given much importance in the written constitutions. Okay, so next one is here, it is less adaptable to change. Okay, because why it is less adaptable to change? Because it is permanent, okay, and it is rigid, and it is very, very less adaptable to change. As it is very permanent and rigid, okay, that is why it is less adaptable to change. Okay, so these are the demerits of your written constitutions. Okay, so merits and demerits of written constitutions. So next one we'll discuss about unwritten constitutions, merits and demerits. Okay, so number one, merits, and next one is your demerits. Okay, so unwritten constitutions, as I've already explained last time, as unwritten constitutions is the one which is neither drafted, yes students, nor it is enacted by the Constituent Assembly. It is also not written in the form of book, or it is not written in the form of a document. Okay, it's a product of what process? It's the product of slow and a gradual process or gradual evolutions. Okay, so that is why the government is organized and it functions in accordance with the several settled laws and an unwritten conventions. And I've also mentioned the examples. I've also gave the examples. Britain is the classic examples of a unwritten constitutions. Okay, so now let's discuss the merits and demerits of your unwritten constitutions. Okay, so number one is your merits. So number one, merits, it says that it is very, very flexible. Unwritten constitution is very flexible. Okay, so it is very flexible because here there is nothing written in the form of book. Okay, there is nothing in the form of written records, we can say. So it can easily make an amendment in the constitutions, okay, as they can easily deal with the changing conditions of the country. Okay, and we can also say that it can easily accommodate the welfare measures of the people. That is why it is very flexible. Okay, so that is number one point of merits. It is very flexible. And number two is it is a product evolutions and it is not enacted. Okay, so it says, students, that it is a product of evolutions and it is not enacted. That means it is not made by the Constituent Assembly, okay, or a particular body, as it is evolved through the historical evolutions. I have already told you that it is a product of what process? Slow and a gradual evolutions. Okay, it is not written in the form of book, or it is not written in the form of a document. And I've already told you that it is neither drafted nor enacted by the Constituent Assembly. Okay, so it's a product of a slow and a gradual evolution. Okay, gradual changes. So next one, that is number three, is in unwritten constitution, customs and conventions receive due importance. Okay, so in unwritten constitutions, so that is number 3 points. So it says that everything is not written in nature, but some written laws are also there in an unwritten constitutions. Okay, but basically it is an amalgamation of customs, students. Okay, it is an amalgamation of traditions, conventions which are evolved in the nature. Okay, so that is why written constitution, customs and conventions, it received a due importance. Okay, so these are the third merits of your unwritten constitutions. Okay, the next one is your demerits of your unwritten constitutions. And number one, it says that unwritten constitution is unclear and ambiguous. Okay, it says that it is very unclear and ambiguous. Okay, because it is not written in the form of book, students, first of all. Okay, and it is full of doubts. Okay, as there is always an element of contradictions in an unwritten constitutions. Okay, and it is not definite in character. Okay, so sometimes it can be vague and sometimes it can be ambiguous. Okay, so this is number one, demerits of your unwritten constitutions. And next one is your lacks of stability. Okay, so it is not stable. As the unwritten constitutions, we can see that it is not stable. Okay, the written constitutions, if we see written constitutions, it is permanent and rigid. okay. And unwritten constitutions is non-permanent and it is flexible, okay. So there is a lack of stability over here, okay. So that is number 2 demerits of your unwritten constitutions. And number 3 is your not suitable for federations, okay. That is not suitable for your federations. It means that because in federations we know that there is a demarcation, there has to be a demarcation between the central government and the state government, right? So in federation, in demarcations, there are the roles and there are the responsibilities should be mentioned, okay. So for the federations, the unwritten constitution is not at all feasible. Only written constitution is feasible for the federations. That is why it is not suitable for the federations. So this is the demerits of unwritten constitutions, okay. So next one we'll discuss about, okay students, now let us discuss about the merits and demerits of a flexible constitution, okay. So a flexible constitution is the one which can be easily amended, and the example of flexible constitution is the British constitutions, okay. So British constitution is a flexible constitutions, and similarly a constitutions can be described as a flexible if the procedure is of amending, we can say, okay, it is simple and the changes in the constitutions can be easily made. That we can call it as a flexible constitutions. Now let's discuss about the merits and demerits of the flexible constitution. So number 1 is the merits. So it is very easy to amend, okay. I've already told you that flexible constitution is the one which is very easy to amend. That means it can easily make a changes in the constitution. Changes can be easily made. For example, there are no difference between an ordinary law and constitutional laws in a flexible constitutions, okay. Such as in rigid constitutions, we can see that there is a clear demarcations between the ordinary laws and the constitutional laws, okay. And over there in the rigid constitution, sorry students, the constitutional law was very supreme, okay. But when we see in the flexible constitutions, ordinary laws and the constitutional laws are more similar, and there is no differentiate in the ordinary laws and the constitutional laws in your flexible constitutions, okay. That means the legislature can pass a constitutional amendments in the same manner by which it can pass or repeal the ordinary laws, okay. So that is why it is very easy to amend. That is number 1 merits of your flexible constitutions. And number 2 is your adaptable to the situation, okay. So it is adaptable to any situation, students, okay. That means it is adaptable to changes, as it prevents the revolutions, because it is very dynamic in nature and there are less opportunities for the revolts in the state, okay. The constitutions has the ability to keep a pace with the changing times and in accordance with the changes in the public opinion, okay. So that is why the Britain has been free from violent revolutions, and also because of the flexible nature of its constitutions. So this is number 2 merits of your flexible constitutions, okay. And number 3 is your, it takes the public opinion. So it takes the public opinion, students, because it is adaptable, okay, and it is flexible and make the changes in the constitutions accordingly, okay. And we can also add it over here that it has the ability to change easily in accordance with the changes in the social and the political environment of the society and the state, okay. So this is now the merits of flexible constitutions. Now let's discuss the demerits of flexible constitutions. So number 1 demerits of flexible constitutions is a flexible constitution is a source of instability, students, okay. That means it is very often a source of instability, because flexibility, it enables the government in power to give it the desired dress and content, okay. And because as it is not stable in nature, and the government can easily bring a changes according to the needs and desires, so we can see like to some extent it is harmful for the country as well, okay. So that is why when we see in the rigid constitution, as a rigid constitution is written in nature, students, right? So that is why it is stable over there, okay. And when we see in the written constitutions, there is a lack of stability and they are not suitable for the federations, okay. And sometimes the rules and regulations can be vague and ambiguous in nature, so that, okay. So this is number 1 demerits of your flexible constitutions. It says that a flexible constitution is a source of instability. Okay, now next one is here, it is not suitable for federations. Okay, it is not suitable for federation, students, because in a federation, okay, flexible constitutions can lead to undesirable, easy and even unilateral changes in the constitutions by the federal government or by the government of the federating units. Okay, that is why it is not suitable for the federations. Okay, and next one, that is number 3. Number 3, it says that harmful to rights. Okay, as it is sometimes harmful to the rights. Flexible constitution sometimes is harmful to the rights because the rights guaranteed to the people are not enshrined in the constitutions in a written format. So it can be harmful to the rights of the people in the society. Okay, so this is another demerits of a flexible constitutions. Okay, students, now let's start about the merits and demerits of rigid constitutions. So rigid constitution is the one which cannot be easily amended. Okay, and its method of amendment is difficult. Okay, for amending it, the legislature has to pass a proposal by a specific and a large majority of 2/3 or the 3/4 or an absolute majority of the votes is been needed. Okay, so this is brief about a rigid constitutions, and now let's discuss about the merits and demerits of the rigid constitutions. So number 1, it says that a rigid constitution is a source of stability. Okay, so it's a source of stability in administration, students. That means rigid constitution is stable in nature and it is permanent. Okay, because it is not amendable. Okay, and it is not easy to amend, as we can call it as it is a stable in nature. Okay, and it cannot get easily amended. Okay, that means it is very, very difficult to amend. Okay, that is why it is called a source of stability. Okay, it is permanent in nature. So next one, number 2 is here, it is precise and it is definite. So it says that because it is precise and definite, because the rigid constitutions, because it is written in nature. Okay, and there will be clear demarcations and spatially related to the demarcations of the functions of the center and the state, and spatially related to that. Okay, so that is why it is very, very precise and it is very definite. So next one is your suitable for your federations. Okay, students, we have already mentioned earlier, okay, that in federations that there are central government and a state government. Okay, and they have the roles and they have the responsibilities and the functions of these two government, that is the central government and the state government, and they should be demarcated in a proper manner. They should be demarcated properly so that the demarcation can happen through written constitution. So that is why it is suitable for what? It is suitable for federation. Okay, so these are the merits of the rigid constitution. Now next one is your demerits of the rigid constitution. So number 1, demerits of a rigid constitution is your difficult to amend. Okay, number 1 is here, it's very difficult to amend. That means it cannot be amended easily, students. Okay, so to amend it, it has a certain special procedure to amend the constitutions. Okay, as I've already told you that to amend, okay, for amendment, the legislature has to pass what? It has to pass a proposal by a specific and a large majority of at least 2/3 or 3/4 or an absolute majority of the votes has been required. That is why it is very, very difficult to amend. Okay, and for this, to make an amendment, we have to go to the certain procedures. Okay, and that is why it is difficult to amend. Okay, and number 1, that is your that is demerits. Number 2 is your less progressive. Okay, so it says that it is very less adaptable, so it is very less progressive. Okay, because it is not going with the changes. Okay, and it is not at all adaptable. That is why it is conservative and it is very, very less progressive. Okay, so this is another demerits of your rigid constitution. constitutions. Okay, now next one is a rigid constitution is a source of your conservativeness. Okay, and because it becomes very old. Okay, as it is a source of conservativeness, because it becomes old very soon and fails to keep a pace with the times. Okay, and it fails to keep a pace with the fast changing socio-economic environment and the needs. Okay, so we can say that the constitutions of the state shall have the ability to change and develop for adjusting itself, students, okay, with the changes in its environment, and as well as for meeting new challenges and demands which always keep on emerging in its environment. So this is another demerits of a rigid constitutions. Okay, so we have discussed in this merits and demerits of written constitutions, flexible constitutions, and rigid constitutions. Okay, and we'll discuss more when we do the online class. Okay, and I will clear the doubts whenever we'll be having our online class. So till then, take care. Bye bye, students.